All right, welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today, wow, we've got quite a stack of material here, all focused on the fascinating world of sales.
Yeah, it's not just about closing a deal, is it? The sources really cover the whole spectrum, the skill, the mindset, the entire process behind it.
Exactly. And what we've got here, it looks like articles, some research, insights,
hmm
really covering everything from building a sales pipeline.
To the traits of successful salespeople, handling those tough objections, negotiation tactics.
Even mindset, which seems huge, and some recommended reading too.
hmm
So our mission today is pretty straightforward.
mm
Let's dive deep into all this stuff. We want to pull out the most important nuggets, the key
Trying
takeaways.
to give you a shortcut, right, to understanding what it really takes to succeed in sales today.
Yeah, whether you're actually in sales or maybe you're just curious about, influence and how it works.
hmm
This is for you.
And just to be clear, this deep dive is tailored specifically from the material you shared. We're pulling out the facts, the insights from those sources to get you informed quickly and thoroughly.
Okay, so where do we kick things off? The sources seem to really hammer home the importance of the sales pipeline right at the start. They call it the lifeblood.
That feels like the right place, yeah. It's fundamental. Think of it as like the visual map of all your opportunities, everything you're working on.
Yeah, it's more than just a list, obviously.
Oh, way more. A well-managed pipeline, it gives you critical insight. You can see potential deal sizes, how fast things are moving, that sales velocity, and crucially, it helps you forecast revenue much more accurately. It's foundational.
Okay, and there was a metric in there about target size
Yeah.
relative to your quota,
Right. The sources suggest aiming for a pipeline that's about, say, 1.25 to 1.5 times your actual sales quota.
which makes sense because not everything closes.
Exactly. Anyone in sales knows that. You need that buffer, that pipeline depth, to reliably hit your numbers. And building that, well, that takes consistent effort and some smart strategies.
Which brings us neatly to the tips for actually building a stronger pipeline. LinkedIn comes up a lot, especially for B2B.
It really is a potential gold mine if you use it right. It's not just finding contacts. It's research, employment history, industry stuff.
And actually interacting, right, with the decision makers.
Yes. Including LinkedIn messages in your regular outreach cadence, that was highlighted as key.
And here's a stat that jumped out at me from the sources. Only 43% of sellers on LinkedIn are actually using it for prospecting.
Crazy, isn't it? That suggests a massive untapped opportunity for, well, most people. Even just, thoughtful comments on a prospect's post can start building that familiarity.
Yeah, good point. Building on that, the sources also stress looking sort of deeper
Yeah,
beyond just the first contact you find.
definitely. Find the real decision makers and do that research early on. LinkedIn helps here too, finding common ground like shared connections, maybe the same university.
And you don't have to do it all by hand. Software integrations are mentioned.
Crucial. Your CRM, your sales engagement platform, they can often sync details from LinkedIn, give you alerts about job changes, things like that. It keeps you current.
Another big one mentioned is asking for referrals. Seems almost old school, but powerful.
It feels different, doesn't it? And the data backs it up. The sources say referrals open doors much more easily and often convert way higher.
There was a number,
And
nearly
now-
40%.
Something like that, yeah. Close to 40% of new leads from referrals can close, which just underlines how important it is to keep those relationships with past customers positive. Their word carries weight.
Okay, so you get some initial interest,
Mhm.
then comes the discovery call. That sounds pivotal.
This is really where the rubber meets the road. It's your chance to build rapport, yes, but mostly to listen, understand their pain points, their real needs.
And qualify them, right. See if they're actually a good fit.
Exactly. And the sources mention using conversation intelligence tools here. Not just for recording, but sharing those calls across teams, sales, marketing, success, get everyone on the same page.
And that qualification part seems critical. The sources emphasize that the pipeline should taper quickly after discovery.
Yes. Weed out the prospects who aren't a fit. Don't just keep them in there to make the pipeline look bigger. That wastes everyone's time, yours and theirs.
Good advice. And don't forget your CRM itself. The sources call it a gold mine.
Rightly so. It's not just for new leads. Think about upsell opportunities with current customers. Those contacts are already in there.
And technology can help spot those opportunities, buying signals, things like that.
Your CRM or sales platform can flag contacts who are showing interest. Maybe they attended a webinar, visited certain web pages, engaged on social media, things you might miss otherwise.
Plus, AI and automation are stepping in now, too.
Yeah, increasingly helpful, like identifying accounts where you don't have a decision maker listed yet, or contacts showing engagement but maybe missing key info. It frees you up for the human side.
Okay, let's talk outreach. Email templates, workflows. Replicating what works seems key.
Find what gets responses and build processes around it. The sources had some solid tips for effective sales emails.
Like catchy subject lines. Keep them short.
Yeah, shorter seems better. Focus on adding real value in the email. Keep the writing concise, conversational.
And give really clear, simple directions for replying. Like, yes, no, try me later.
Exactly. Make it easy. And timing matters too. Think about time zones. Maybe use tools that avoid sending when someone's out of office. Small things, big difference.
Reduce the friction. That seems to be a theme.
It is. Simple copy, clear calls to action. People are busy.
And don't just rely on emails, right? Multi-channel outreach.
Definitely. Automated workflows can mix in LinkedIn messages, phone calls, maybe even SMS or DMs. Meet people where they are.
And finally, under pipeline building, follow-up. The sources really hammer this home.
Oh, yeah. Most salespeople apparently give up way too soon. You absolutely need a system. What's the timing? What's the cadence? Which method are you using?
And again, platforms can automate this based on triggers.
Yeah, like if they click a link but don't reply or just haven't responded after a set number of days, automation helps ensure persistence. And again, multi-channel is key if one method isn't working.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Building that robust pipeline gives you the opportunities. But what about the people? Sales is so human.
It absolutely is. Which brings us to the next big chunk of insights from the sources, the traits, the personalities that make salespeople successful.
And the point is made clear.
Mm.
This is a skill you hone. You're not just born a great salesperson.
Exactly. They list, I think, 14 traits. But let's maybe zero in on a few that really stand out from the material.
Sounds good. What's top?
Genuinely caring about the customer's interests, like
Right.
really understanding their challenges, their goals, what they're trying to achieve, caring more about their mission than just your commission check.
That definitely cuts against the old stereotype of the pushy salesperson.
It does, and that's why it's so critical today. Trust comes from showing you're actually trying to help them.
Confidence must be huge, too.
Oh, absolutely. You have to believe in what you're selling deeply. If you don't, how can you expect the customer to? That belief, it's kind of infectious.
And you need resilience, right?
Yeah.
Thick skin. Sales involves rejection.
Essential. Daily difficulty, daily rejection sometimes. Resilience is that ability to cope, to bounce back. The best ones, they don't take it personally. They see it as like a challenge for the next call, a chance to learn something.
Being a good listener. That comes up again and again.
Because how can you possibly know their pain points or what they really need if you're not listening? It's fundamental to qualifying and showing empathy.
Persistence is on the list, too.
Yes, but, respectful, intelligent persistence, it cuts through the noise, gives you more chances to connect, it shows you're serious.
Honesty seems like a given, but it's explicitly mentioned.
Non-negotiable. The sources are really firm on this. Don't lie to close a deal, ever. It's always better to lose the deal, but keep your integrity, your reputation. Your network is built on that.
Optimism, being upbeat, those also seem important.
Successful sellers tend to radiate positivity. They focus on what they can control. They don't dwell on the no's or the roadblocks. That energy matters in interactions.
And given how global things are, there's mention of a broad worldview, cultural understanding.
Increasingly vital. You need empathy, patience, especially internationally. Business norms, relationship building, even how direct people are, it all varies hugely. You need to adapt.
Okay, so beyond these individual traits, the sources also talk about different styles of selling, or rather, understanding buyer personalities. They list 4: assertive, amiable, expressive, and analytic.
Right, these are like frameworks, ways to understand common patterns in how people prefer to interact and make decisions. Assertive types, usually goal-oriented, decisive, direct.
Amiable.
Amiable types are often patient, friendly, they really value relationships, tend to ask more questions.
Expressive types sound more outgoing, creative, persuasive.
Yeah, often enthusiastic, also relationship-focused, but maybe more through telling stories, painting a picture.
And analytic.
Analytic types are your fact-driven folks, formal, patient, very prepared. They want the data, the logic, maybe less focused on like a deep personal bond during the sale itself.
So why is understanding these styles useful for a salesperson?
Well, this is where you move beyond a one-size-fits-all pitch. If you can get a sense of your prospect's style, you can tailor how you talk to them, what info you emphasize, even how you structure the conversation. It helps you resonate.
Can you give some examples? How would you tailor your approach?
Okay, so for an assertive type, be super professional, prepared, get straight to the point, use business metrics, show them the competitive edge, the measurable results, no fluff.
And an amiable prospect.
With amiable types, you probably need to build that rapport first. Pitch the vision, share success stories from similar clients, be patient, guide them gently. Things like guarantees can be reassuring.
Expressive.
Show them case studies, yes, but also focus on building a strong professional relationship. Check in often. Use engaging descriptions, maybe more qualitative stuff alongside the data. They respond to enthusiasm, creativity, if it's backed up.
And finally, the analytic type.
Patience is key here. Lots of data, numbers, detailed explanations. Assume they've done their homework. Stick to facts and logic. Trying too hard to build a strong personal connection early on might actually backfire.
It sounds like the really good salespeople are probably flexible, right? They can pull from all these approaches depending on the situation.
Absolutely. Adaptability is huge. But even with the best traits and the perfect approach, you're still going to face challenges.
Which brings us to objections and negotiation. Part of the territory.
Definitely. And the sources make a useful distinction here between a sales objection, a real reason they won't buy, like I don't see the value, and an obstruction.
Which is more like an excuse. I don't have time.
Exactly. Just a way to brush you off. Understanding the difference is the first step.
And the sources break down common objections using that BANT framework. Budget, authority, need, timing urgency.
Right. Lack of budget is super common. But the sources suggest it often means they don't see the value yet, not that they literally have zero money. So the response isn't just discounting. It's emphasizing value, differentiating, talking service, using social proof.
Lack of authority.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not the decision maker.
Could be. Or it might mean they don't fully trust your company yet. Social proof helps here. Mention similar clients, share case studies. If they really don't have authority, your goal shifts. Help them become your internal champion. Show them clearly how your solution makes their job easier, solves their problem. Give them the arguments they need to sell it internally to the person who can sign off.
Okay. Lack of need.
That's actually a great chance to qualify better. Ask more open-ended questions. Really understand their situation, their challenges, then connect your solution specifically to those needs. Don't assume you know.
And the lack of urgency. Too busy. Not a priority right now.
Ask why it's not urgent. If they're genuinely swamped, fine, schedule a follow-up. But maybe their current priorities reveal other pain points you can help with right now. Don't let timing be an easy out.
The sources even give specific examples, like if they say, I'm busy.
Offer a really short pitch, like 2 minutes, respecting their time.
Or competitor X is cheaper.
Don't just cut your price. Highlight your unique value, the features, the service that justifies your cost.
What about, I saw a bad review?
Acknowledge it. Briefly mention how it was resolved, if possible. Then pivot to a positive case study or testimonial to counterbalance it.
There's also a structured, 7-step process for overcoming objections in the material.
Yeah, it's pretty practical. Starts with prepare, know the likely objections for your product. Then listen actively, no interrupting, watch body language. Then understand, ask questions, repeat their concern back to make sure you get it.
Then validate shows you take their concern seriously, don't minimize it.
Right. Then act, address the objection, tackle the main one first, get help if you need it. Then plan, propose the next step, and super important, record the objection and how you handled it.
And finally, confirm. Make sure they're satisfied with the answer before moving on.
Exactly. Check for any other lingering concerns.
Okay, that's objections. What about negotiation? Sometimes prospects get adversarial.
Yeah, the sources list a bunch of difficult tactics you might face. The general advice: stay calm, suggest a break if it gets heated, ask more questions. Only make concessions if they give something back.
Hold firm on price. Maybe offer elegant currency value adds instead of discounts.
That's a great one. And warn about consequences, sure, but don't make threats. Sometimes you just have to recognize this deal isn't going to work and move on.
What about specific tactics? Like the budget bogey, they claim a hard limit.
The advice is to test it. Are budgets really that fixed? Explore payment terms. Try to find the real decision maker who might have flexibility.
Cherry picking. Taking the best price from one competitor, best terms from another.
Counter is maybe a small price concession only if they agree to your terms elsewhere. Know your competition. Have the guts to say no, or take a break, a caucus to regroup.
It's company policy. That old chestnut.
Test it again. Policies often have exceptions, or there's someone who can interpret it differently. Find that person.
Emotional outbursts. Anger, storming out.
Sources suggest most are staged. Key is stay calm. Ask specifically what the problem is. Don't just concede to calm them down if it feels like a performance.
An intentional delay, making you wait, losing papers, using your deadline against you.
Be aware if they know you're under time pressure. And crucially, don't reveal tight deadlines if they seem to be playing that game. They might try to squeeze you at the last minute.
Wow, it really feels like handling objections, handling negotiation. So much of it comes down to your internal state, your mindset.
Absolutely, which is why the sources put so much emphasis on the inner game. Sales involves a lot of rejection, a lot of potential confrontation. Your mindset is, well, paramount.
They talk about a limited mindset versus an abundant mindset. What's
Yeah.
the core difference there?
A limited mindset is driven by ego, maybe fear. It relies on hope, luck, blames external factors when things go wrong, leads to frustration.
Whereas the abundant mindset,
Is built on confidence, optimism. Crucially, it sees rejection not as failure, but as feedback, as a chance to learn. It's about focusing on possibilities.
and the impact of that limited mindset sounds pretty negative for a salesperson.
It really is. You struggle to sell with purpose beyond just money. You might try to sell to anyone, even bad fits. You feel like you have to be on all the time, can't switch off. And yeah, you take every no personally, which is just exhausting.
But shifting to an abundant mindset changes that whole experience.
Fundamentally, hearing no isn't devastating. It just means more time for prospects who are a good fit. Every no is a lesson. What could I do differently? It lets you detach a bit, enjoy life outside sales, and you end up selling more authentically, finding the right solution, not just pushing any solution. It feels better, and frankly, it works better.
Let's talk motivation for a second. Money is obviously part of it.
Of course, you need to pay the bills. But the sources strongly suggest that while money might be the initial driver, the best, most sustainable motivation is a genuine desire to help prospects find the best solution for them, even if it's not yours sometimes.
Why is that a better motivator?
Because it changes your whole approach. It leads naturally to better listening, better qualification. You're not just trying to hit a number, you're trying to solve a problem collaboratively. The sources actually say the very top salespeople are rarely motivated only by money.
Making that shift, getting to that abundant mindset, that sounds like the real work, especially if you're feeling stressed or insecure. The sources connect this to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
It's a really interesting connection they make. You know, Maslow's pyramid basic needs at the bottom, moving up through safety, belonging, esteem, to self-actualization. The idea is if you're stuck worrying about those lower levels,
Like financial security or maybe shaky relationships.
exactly. If your safety needs or your social belonging needs feel unmet, it's incredibly hard to focus on self-esteem or self-actualization, which is where confidence, continuous improvement, and that abundant mindset really live.
So things we might see as personal problems can directly impact our professional mindset in sales.
Precisely. If you're in survival mode, you can't really be in growth mode or genuine connection mode. The sources offer a practical exercise, though.
Oh yeah, what's that?
List what you have: home, family, job, health, whatever. Check off the things you feel you can reasonably rely on. Then, for the things that feel shaky, make a concrete plan to shore them up.
How does listing what you have help?
It forces you to recognize the security you already possess. Often it's more than we think when we're stressed. And making plans for the unstable areas gives you a sense of control, of agency. Both help build that foundational security, freeing up energy to climb the pyramid.
And you don't have to do this alone, presumably.
Absolutely not. The sources emphasize mentors, coaches, trusted friends, even therapists. Getting support is key to working through those underlying things and shifting your mindset. It's a journey, not a switch you flip.
It really sounds like, yeah, the skills, the tactics, they're important. But the mindset, the motivation, that's the foundation that makes it all work long term.
It truly is. It's the engine. Change takes time, but focusing there is what makes the strategy stick. Which kind of leads to the last piece from the sources fueling that journey through ongoing learning.
Right. The Reddit thread included was just full of book recommendations.
Yeah, covering all sorts of angles: psychology, consulting, closing, influence, mindset, strategy. A real mix.
How to Win Friends and Influence People came up a lot. A classic.
Definitely seems like a perennial favorite for the relationship side of sales.
The source material also acknowledged differing opinions on some well-known sales figures like Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort.
Yes, it did. It reflected that there isn't just one way, and some methods are debated, like Cardone's massive action. Some see it as effective, others maybe as too aggressive, bordering on harassment in today's context.
And Belfort.
Despite his history, the source acknowledged his analytical breakdown of the sales process is seen by some as insightful. The point wasn't to endorse anyone, but to show these different perspectives exist within the sales world, presented neutrally.
Which just reinforces that sales is deeply psychological, right? Learning from different viewpoints helps you figure out your own best approach.
Exactly. It's about continuous improvement, finding what works for you authentically.
Well, this has been quite the journey. We've gone from building the pipeline
To the traits of great sellers, handling objections, navigating tough negotiations.
really digging into mindset and motivation, and finally, the importance of always learning.
It's all interconnected, isn't it? The process, the people, the psychology, the resilience. Understanding how they fit together seems key to thriving in sales. It's dynamic.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Considering everything we've unpacked today from these sources,
Hmm.
which one trait of a successful salesperson, or maybe one aspect of that abundant mindset, which one resonates most strongly with you right now?
Yeah, what's the one thing that feels like a potential leverage point for you?
How could focusing on just that one thing maybe change how you approach your next challenge, your next interaction? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of sales.